or something that has been shown to you, and it's not just a product of your mind.
Hi Kapil. So I wanted to ask, I'm pursuing something and I have not a very clear vision for that. So is a vision more important than the a journey?
Hello. Is being great at what you do and commercializing it, making it a business, two separate games?
Hi, Kapil. Thanks for the chance. I wanted to ask if being an outcast has any real truth to it. Thanks.
Hello, Dr. Gupta. I'm not sure how much or whether you heard what I said before. I am an addict who is very much in conflict with my addiction, and I don't think I can see it clearly. Am I capable of seeing my
Addiction to what?
addiction clearly? At present, some combination of caffeine, nicotine, and cannabis.
So yesterday, I was overcome by a lot of anger. Um, I really want to overcome this, and I don't know why I'm still holding on to it, but I don't know what I'm not seeing. I've been studying a lot of your work, and I thought I was over it, but for some reason, I was.
Hi, Kapil Gupta. I I just want to say I'm very thankful for your work. After I came across truth, I can only make sense out of truth. Nothing else makes sense to me. I used to read a lot of self-help books and spiritual books, but nothing makes sense to me. It's been about 2 years since. For a while I thought it was just a phase, and um, I thought it was just a phase, but it never left me. So I just want to say thank you so much, and please never stop releasing your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, oh, hello, Kapil. What is the truth about talent?
Hello. Hi, Guruji. I was reading one of your works recently, and it resonated with me, and I really wanted to know because I genuinely lost it. So I started making music, let's say, a few years back, that is close to 8 years back. And the moment when I started it, I I felt like I didn't know like technicalities or any sense of like what is this and what is what. But then I felt like I was able to get to somewhere where I felt like it was much more purer. And then what happened was I tried to, let's say, work in like my aim was like, okay, I need to make money off of this because otherwise my parents are going to ask me what is what are you doing with this and stuff like that. But then I kept doing that, and then I started acquiring a lot of more uh, technical knowledge. Like I would study, read a lot of books and stuff like that. Now it is like when I'm going to make music, now my mind is like, okay, let's try this, let's do that. But then it's gotten me some time to just put my mind aside and just go by the feel of it. But then what has happened here is, uh, before, the the thing that I read about it was the instinct that I had. I don't have it anymore. And I am trying so much, and I'm really like, it's day in and day out of process where I'm trying to find like, okay, am I actually feeling it? Some days I feel it, some days I tap into it, some days my mind is like, let's just take it this way. Let's, because I'm conditioned to believe that, oh, if I do it this particular way, then it sounds good, then it sounds bad. I just want, my question would be, how do I actually let my instinct come back alive? Thank you so much, Guruji. It's such an honor speaking to you.
Well, the reason that it was there to begin with was because you didn't have some kind of method to make it there to begin with, right? And and
Yeah,
so and so the notion that you have to have a method now to bring it back, I understand that it's gone away from you, but I think I think if there's something that you need to crystallize inside yourself, it isn't how to get it back or anything like that, even though that seems like the natural question to ask. But if you know my work, you know that's not going to lead you anywhere. So,
yeah.
but I think the most direct thing that I can tell you is that you already had it, and how you got it to begin with was not by way of a method. And employing or trying to employ some type of chase or a method to get it back now um, would not be fruitful, because it's been proven to you, not by me, but your own situation, that
Direct experience. Yeah,
that it's
direct
it's been
experience. Yeah.
your it's been proven to you that it was gotten not by way of a method, Okay, just that has to
Yeah.
that has to crystallize, and I don't think that has crystallized yet. I think you understand it intellectually, but and I fully understand that you're trying to get it back. I get that. I'm not blind to that. I see that. But what you need to see is it was not methodized and techniqued to get there in the first place.
Hi, Kapil. What are some questions one should ask themselves? Because I feel like
Hi, Kapil. Um, I'm a musician and I play gigs as part of being a musician. And a lot of times playing those gigs feels wrong, whether while I'm playing the gig or before the gig. Um, Sometimes there's moments of like amazingness where the gig goes well, the energy's good in the audience, I feel good on stage, but that's pretty piecemeal and kind of sparse. Um, and a lot of times, the people I perform for clearly don't want to hear what I'm playing, so there's always a pressure to sort of
Okay,
pander.
so here's a question. Uh, how good are you at what you do? It's a direct question.
Um, so I would say probably a 6 out of 10.
Okay,
Um,
so so if you're a 6 out of 10, and I'm not saying that you should be higher or lower or whatever. I'm not saying what you should be or try to be, or I'm just basing it upon what is. So if you're a 6 out of 10, then neither can you be that taken by your work, and neither can anybody else.
Assalamu alaikum, Kapil. I want to just ask a question. I've never done a job in my life and I have started my own startup, but there seems to be a hindrance every time I talk to a client, or sometimes it goes well and I'm not reaching the pinnacle of it. Like it's just wavered up and down, up and down. And
Hi, Kapil. So, it's been a long time since I am into spirituality, if I might put it like that. But there's one thing in my life which I have never been able to crack yet, which is enlightenment. It's something which I haven't been able to understand. I am pursuing it for sure if I can pursue it, but I'm not able to understand
So
what it is.
spirituality and enlightenment don't go together. Now that's going to sound
Okay.
like a very odd statement,
Hmm.
but one cannot get to enlightenment by way of spirituality.
Okay, so what is the wake up?
The truth.
Hello, Kapil. I've been following you for many years now, and your work has been truly transformational for me. Where I'm almost at a stage where I can say that I have no questions left, except for one thing that I guess sometimes is on my mind and bothers me. I'm not particularly seeking enlightenment, but I am drawn to it, and some processes started to unfold with me where things are changing. I'm okay with it in a way, but part of me is a bit scared in the sense that I'm a mother and a wife, and what that would mean with my ability to function. And it's a ridiculous fear, and I know it's a ridiculous fear, but there is something I don't understand about being hit with
Well,
enlightenment at
no,
some
I don't
point.
think it's a ridiculous fear. Um,
Uh,
the I mean, making the statement that it's a ridiculous fear, it's not a viable statement because the if it was that ridiculous, then you wouldn't be feeling it.
it's there.
So
It's
right.
there. Yeah.
So what happens is that humans don't. So if I make a statement about the mind, or people read my work, and they have all these ideas and notions, and that they attach, that they bring, that they like. If I could write, X, Y, and Z, but then they bring their A, B, C's, D's, and E's, and F's, and
Yeah.
G's, and so forth, and so then they they bring their own baggage, right? So they don't just read the X, Y, and Z. And that isn't to say that you should read the X, Y, and Z and do what the X, Y, and Z says that I write, because I don't tell you what to do. There's nothing to do. There is no X, Y, and Z for
Yeah.
you to do. So um, I fully understand that human beings' minds are not empty. They're full of garbage, right? They're just full of conditioning, over having lived on the earth for, 20, 30, 40, 90 years, whatever it is. And so they're going to bring their A, B's, and C's, right? And because that's the case, and because that's absolutely going to happen, because you're not going to have a permanently quiet mind. So they're going to have their A, B's, and C's. But because that's happening, then that is evidence for the fact that they don't understand, right? And I'm not going to spend 400,000 pages writing, each each topic. And even if I did, you still wouldn't understand, because there has to be prerequisites. They have to be understandings based upon understandings. And so most people take my work out of context. Okay. I'm trying to explain to you how things happen, I'm giving you a comprehensive sort of answer.
I hear you.
Um,
Yeah.
so what did I just say? What was my last statement? You know what I just said?
Most people take words out of
Okay, good.
context, so
Yes.
people misread
Right.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most people, almost everyone they read my thing, and most of it they read out of context. And the reason that they read it out of context is obviously not because they want to. It isn't deliberate. It's because they don't have the prerequisite understandings to truly understand what is being said. Therefore, when they read about something like, enlightenment or realization, or, if I write about, the mind, they will naturally and understandably, I'm not placing any fault here because there is no fault. They were naturally and reasonably, come up with or have a feeling, like in this case, in your example of, well, if I have, enlightenment, or, if I conquer the mind or whatever it may be, then I'll become, you know, cold-hearted to my family and have to move to a cave. And if my children need something, I won't care at all. And so it doesn't matter what I say to that. Like I could say, no, you won't do that, right? Well, I would never say that because me saying that doesn't do anything. The power of the A, B, and C that you bring, which in this case is, I'll be cold-hearted and won't care about anybody. That the power of that is very dominant, and nothing can override that. So like I can tell you, no, you won't. No, you won't feel that way. Okay, that's not going to do anything. Because the fear that won't get rid of your fear, right? But the reason that the fear exists, the reason that those A, B's, and C's exist, is because you have not gotten the truth about the whole truth about that particular topic. In this case, the mind, enlightenment, whatever it may be. And if you don't have the whole truth about a topic, then you're always walking in on the middle of a conversation, so to speak. Then you absolutely will misunderstand the vast majority of things, or at the very, very, very least, there will be holes in your understanding. You may understand a particular thing more than your neighbor if they read my stuff, but both of you will have holes. And because there's holes in your understanding, there has to be fear and concern and uncertainty and anxiety and trepidation and all. There has to be, right? Because you don't know. So so so
Yeah,
the most critical thing, literally, I mean, it's literally the most you could, I would say it's the only thing to do in life, really, is to do what to your hair's on fire, you're burning up, you're about to die in the next 5 minutes. And the only thing that can save you is to know the truth. And by the way, you literally are on fire, right? You are going to die, and so am I. So everything, this is life and death, literally. And the reason it's life and death, it isn't spirituality. I mean, it's so comic book nonsense, spirituality. You know, you can live it, you can live without or live with it. This you can't live without. And my proof is that you're not living. And I'm not picking on you, I'm saying everyone. No one, because they don't know the whole truth. And if you know the truth, then all of the other questions and all of the other concerns that bother, they go away. Because now you know that all of those things are based upon misunderstandings. All of those things are based upon not having understood. All of those things are based upon, all the problems are based upon you not knowing the truth. And therefore, second grade logic, if that is the cause of all your life problems, there is no amount of time, there is no amount of money, there is no amount of dedication, there is no amount of anything that is, that is not worth getting it. And like there's just because it's your life, right? Now, me saying that doesn't mean that you should try to get it. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying why those fears exist about, in this case, um, I'll become cold and don't care of anybody. That's why those things, because you don't know the whole story, right? You just look at you look at the headline, and and you turn it into a punchline, and you just know you don't know any of it. And so those who learn the whole truth are the ones who own their lives.
thank you. This is very helpful. Thank you.
Does nature have any built-in consequences for one's actions, or are all consequences that stem from one's
Well, you're living
actions?
the consequences of that. The built-in consequence of nature is not knowing the truth.
So if one does something to their own benefit at the detriment of somebody else,
That's like so superficial, right? That's so superficial. That's like that isn't even the tip of the iceberg. You didn't hear what I said. You're just talking about this, do good to others, and if I do someone bad to something else, does that mean it'll happen bad to me? And you're living at this very, very surface level. It like it's not even worthy to go into.
Hi, Kapil. I've been thinking about something that is kind of related to what you tweeted a while back. I was actually thinking about this before I read your tweet, and when I read your tweet, anyway, I'll just get into my question. So, your tweet was mental and emotional problems, and quite possibly all pathologies that occur within a human organism, are the result of involuntary thought. Now, that strikes me as truth. And the way I see society and modern science tackle problems, whether it's body or mind, is from a very reactive and sort of isolation perspective, where they say, this is the problem, let's fix the problem. Uh, After reading your tweet, and after doing some thinking, I've been thinking about this for a while, it seems to me like the ultimate panacea or fix for all of one's problems, and that is physical too, not just mental, but any sort of illness that occurs in the body, is a complete mastery of the whole body and the mind, in one. So my question is, if that's true, then is it not a waste of time to just try to isolate the problem and find a fix for the problem the way science
Well, that's
does
what I've
it?
been writing about for years. I've always said science is 100 years behind. I mean, light years behind. I mean, I maybe you were new to my work, but I've been writing about this for years. It's never about fixing the problem. Fixes don't go anywhere.
I'm reading Andre Agassi's autobiography. In this, he said that he hate the tennis, and I'm sort of in the same situation. I hate my work, but is this my unseriousness that I hate it, and I try to search for things like you.
Hi, Kapil. Um, you released a message yesterday that said, I believe, the truer, the purer, the greater the artist, the more likely he is to starve. Which I've been following your work for over 5 years now, and I recently started receiving your private discourses, and I absolutely see how that is 100% true, in the sense that pure art is truth, and the world has no interest in truth. So obviously that won't, they're going to starve because no one's going to buy truth, really. And you've also written a lot about purity in its relationship to success, which I also have, over the past many years of exposure to your work, come to see is true
I think
too.
I know where this is
That
going, and you're trying to call that a dichotomy. You call it
no,
you're going to
well,
try
no,
conflicting messages. Is that where you're going with this?
no. My question is, can both of those things be true, and it just depends on
Yeah, I mean everything
whether
is contextual, right?
they're
Everything is contextual, and everything is dependent upon the depth to which one understands the message. And if you're, if you're a cliff noter, you're not going to get anything. At least in my work, you're not going to get anything. You're going to be led astray by your own cliff noting, right? So, oh, so he said this. Okay, so like I'm going to make that this. No, you don't understand. Like I said, I'm not going to make my Twitter messages um, or my writings like 7 million pages long each because that's what will be required,
right,
right? So,
right,
so therefore, there absolutely is going to need to be a there needs to be some level of understanding that the human brings with him in order to even remotely understand my work because you will misunderstand. I mean, that's not even the question. You will misunderstand. You shouldn't even read my Twitter messages. I mean, because like it's just they're incumbent upon you being the sort of person who already has some level of understanding and before the message, and then he is willing to dive in and gain more understanding after the message, right? So
mhm,
the purity does not lead to success, and purity itself does not lead to success, and purity itself does not lead to starvation.
right,
It's not a direct link there. The point behind that message essentially was that garbage sells. Okay,
right,
so if you go to the movies, if you go read books, if you go to the the bookstore, if you whatever it is, the things that are the most commercial are the things that are the most garbage. And unless you have two choices. Either you can write garbage if you want to make money, and it
yeah,
doesn't mean that you will make money just because it's garbage. Same thing that just because purity doesn't lead to success, and well, neither does garbage necessarily, but you'll have a way higher chance with garbage. And the reason for that is like that it's easy to think that that's unfair and wrong and but that it's not fair. It's not unfair and wrong. It's just you have to know humans. And so, unless you're publishing the book or your music or your painting or whatever on Mars, right? Who has and let's say Mars is populated by this completely different species of creature who appreciates art and who appreciates truth, right? Then
mhm,
you are you are putting the work out there in a land of garbage seekers. Okay, so the humans who populate Earth are shallow, distracted, disinterested,
yeah,
dumb, garbage seekers. Okay. That's why, the explosion movie with cursing every other second,
yeah,
that's why those movies sell. That's why those movies are, standing room only, so to speak, and breaking the box office and all this stuff, right? Because that isn't wrong or unfair. So the artist who says, "Well, that's wrong because no, that's that's like saying, you know, a a a fly that hovers over feces is wrong. It's not wrong.
yeah,
That's just what it does, right? So the humans are not these refined. They have the capacity to be that way, and nature created them that way, but they've all lost their way, right? They have degraded towards the world and society. And so they're these degraded human beings who guzzle beer and go to these parties and talk nonsense at their stupid, idiotic social hours. So
Yeah.
like when that is the only thing that's available as far as the species in which your work is being put out, then your product doesn't really match the market, right? So your product has a much higher chance of matching the market if it's garbage. the more the more pure it is and the more true it is, the more it is divorced from the nature, not only the nature, not the original nature, but the more it is divorced from who human beings have become. And therefore, the number of humans in this on this planet who are actually going to resonate with that is basically you're in starvation territory. That was the crux and meaning behind that message.
Hello. Um, I wanted to ask who is it that doesn't waste his own life?
No, the point is, are you wasting yours? And it doesn't, like, why are you looking for misery loves company?
Hello.
Hi, Kapil. Thank you for taking my question. Just wondering why you thought or why you think Siddhartha became enlightened living with the river guide and meditating under the Bodhi tree when he did a very similar thing with the Samanas but couldn't reach enlightenment while he was with them. Thank you.
So, so I've discussed this like in podcasts and I've written about it too. I mean, Siddhartha's enlightenment had nothing to do with meditation. And if it did, that might have been the final mile or something. It was his desire for truth. And if you read his story when he first went into the jungle and left behind his possessions, he he found the ascetics for whatever it was, 6 or 7 years, and ate one grain of rice a day, drank his own urine, meditated for 24 hours a day or whatever it was, and did whatever all the austerities that they told him to do. And by his own words, he was on the verge of death, and he was no closer to wisdom than he was when he left his father's house. And it wasn't until after he left all that nonsense and left all teachers behind and all methods behind that he found enlightenment. So, I mean, I've spoken about that before. If meditation created enlightenment, then how many meditators do you have in the world? I mean, and how many Buddhas do you have in the world? It's just second grade logic.
Why I don't know who I want to be, even if I explore it several times.
Hey, couple. Thank you for the work that you do. One of the most probably fundamental understandings that I've had through your work, which I think at first, well, I know at first it was intellectual, but somehow now over time has come a deep understanding that I live by, is that difference between intellectual learning and true understanding. And in short, intellectual learning is empty. And I'm grateful enough to have realized this now that having young kids and how I approach raising them. Um, I guess my question is, so I've had this realization that perhaps there's effectively one truth or the truth, and certainly there's multiple truths that can be derived from um, this understanding of nature. But and in fact, when I read your book, Direct Truth and other discourses that you have, I can see how these different truths can also be derived from this one unadorned truth. But I'm wondering, is this just a mind game I'm playing, which I don't believe it is, just based on these understandings I have, but I wonder what your view is.
I don't understand the question.
Hmm. I guess my question is, with the texts that you have, the different various books you have, the various discourses that you have, there's multiple truths that you speak about, all which have quite profound, deep messages, or maybe not messages isn't the right word, but meanings behind them. But I feel like, based on my own understandings and realizations, that the root of them is all one truth. Does that resonate, or do you feel like
I
this is
think
just
I think
another
I
game
think
of
there
the
I
mind?
think there are some truths that are very, very foundational, and there's not a million of them.
Right.
But it's kind of like it's kind of like the the truths that are like absolutely foundational are so out of reach to human beings, um, that like they're impractical. It's a and impractical doesn't mean there's something to do and therefore it's harder for you to do. Impracticality doesn't mean there's like difficulty in doing. By impractical, I mean impractical to understand. And even the things that I write about that are, not even foundational truths, everyone is struggling to understand. And they're bringing, like I told the other caller, their own A, B, C, and C's because of a lack of prerequisite understanding of various other truths that are necessary before and after X truth to understand the whole thing. And so, but the foundational ones, I mean, like it's like it's like telling a 75-year-old man, who has arthritis and and a replaced hip and knee, to go climb Everest tomorrow afternoon, and I'm not giving you any oxygen, and I need you to do it in 3 hours. It's impractical, right?
Right.
So, so while the while the while you are technically correct, not necessarily just saying one truth, but there's some foundational truths. Uh, but technically correct doesn't really get you anywhere on a practical everyday level, right? So it's just theoretical. So like you have to be, and I hate saying that because it sounds like I'm implying that you should be this way or try to strive now to be. And I'm not. Nothing. I couldn't. You couldn't be further from the truth by thinking that I'm saying that. I'm just saying you have to
Right.
be like this devoted, dedicated, rare 1 in 100 million human who is willing to do anything and open his mind and willing to, throw away all his garbage and like it's once again there may be two people on the planet, okay, and even that's probably optimistic. So while technically you may not be wrong, it doesn't really go anywhere. because that's like saying, well, is it possible to climb Everest with no oxygen and a replaced hip in X amount of hours? Sure. Okay, but so what? Like, are you going to do it? Like, is it going to actually happen? So just because you want to write the theoretical possibilities, that's just a waste of time. Philosophy goes nowhere. The only thing that means something is things that are absolutely acutely relevant to your life and are 100% practical. That's why spirituality and self-help is nonsense, because it isn't practical. It's just practice. It isn't practical. It doesn't get you anywhere. Um, that that then it, that's all that matters, right? Technically correct, philosophically correct. Those things they're not acutely relevant to your life, and if it isn't acutely relevant to your life, it might as well be a lie.
Hi, Kapil. Uh, I wanted to ask that when between two people, there are different contexts about a particular situation, there are different perspectives, and at
Namaskaram, Kapilji. My question is, what is the source of my insincerities? Thank you.
Hi, Kapil. Thank you for taking my question. My question is around access to one's faculties. In my life, I've experienced moments that I would describe as where things felt effortless and there was just like more of a pure perfection of performance. But most days do not feel like that. I've come to understand that this is due to an expectation that I have, either of some kind of external stimulus or um, result in the future, and a fear around not accomplishing that or receiving that. But in some specific moments that can last a few
So are
hours
you going
to
to
maybe
ask
a
how to
day.
get there?
No.
Okay, what's your question?
Why would my fear disappear in those moments? I've studied it very closely, and I found no commonality between
So
what
here's,
gets.
I tend to be giving long answers today for some reason. So, and maybe this will help to lessen questions in the future. So maybe that's good. Um, it so you have to understand that you have to understand this, but then again, there's not much you can do about it, like in the next 5 minutes. Um, so you saying you have fears, and I've looked into it. Now, imagine there's a coding problem with something, right? And uh, some line of code, and I know nothing about that stuff, but that's just an example. So, but now there's a line of code in a program or something that's wrong. Okay. Now imagine that a person who doesn't know, like me, who doesn't know anything about coding, right, was to try to find the problem, um, and they said, "Well, I've looked into it, but I haven't figured it out." Okay. Well, of course you haven't figured it out because you're not a coder, right? So in this case, that would be me. Of course I haven't figured it out because I'm not a coder, so I don't even know what line of code is broken, and it could be staring me right in the face, and I wouldn't have any idea, right? So you looking if you look into something in order to find the truth about something, you have to be at a certain level. Otherwise, you don't know what you're looking for. You're going to fall for red herrings. You're not even going to see it if it's there. Like, so now, and that was the one part. And the other part I said was it's not going to help you in the next 5 minutes. And by that, I meant, but what else can you do? You're doing your best. I mean, which is sincere, right? To look into it. At least you're looking into it. And what else can you do but use what you already have, right? So uh, that's true. But having said that, like you're not gonna get you're not gonna get help from the universe. Okay, well, since you don't know the whole thing, let me just no, it's not gonna happen, right? It's like if I went to the coding thing. I really wanted to figure out what was wrong with that program, right? Like I'm not going to just get it and say, "Oh, well, because I'm really wanting to know and figure this out and fix this problem, the answer should come to me." No, it shouldn't, because I don't have the knowledge and the understanding to know, you know, that craft. So you looking into it and you using your tools, which I fully appreciate and respect and understand, that's all you have. And what else can you look at it with what you have? And that's even doing more than most people who aren't even looking into it. So I mean, there's respect there. Okay. But having said that, it doesn't change the fact that if you don't have the tools, right, if you don't have the full understanding, how are you going to come to a bottom? Like, why would you come to the bottom of it? You shouldn't, right? So this is what I mean. Like a lot of these answers that I'm giving are very, very, very overlapping. In some way, they're the same answer, which is that like the knife must be sharp enough for the question to slice the question at hand, right? The knowledge must be keen and developed and deep enough for you to glean the understanding that is necessary. So everything has a minimum required level, right? Everything you have to have a minimum level of something depending upon the magnitude of the thing that you're trying to accomplish. And if your minimum does not reach the required minimum, then it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible. I'll never say it's totally impossible because nothing is impossible, but I'll just say it's very difficult to impossible to do that. So I'll be honest with you, like I'm very hesitant because it's my nature, right? I'm very hesitant to say, well, you should you know, try and learn the truth and let me help you out. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm just like that's just not who I am. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. But I mean, the fact kind of remains that if you want to be great at coding, you have to devote your, depending upon how great you want to be, you have to devote your life to that thing and go anywhere and everywhere you have to go, and including outside yourself, including inside yourself, and do your own experience and get your own fundamental knowledge and all those things. And when it comes to the truth, when it comes to figuring out your problems in life, I mean, and when it comes to the mind, when it comes to these internal conflict and fear and anxiety, I mean, coding is a three-piece kindergarten puzzle compared to that. I mean, you're talking like king of the universe type things to figure yourself out, to master yourself. I mean, that there's nothing higher. So so it's almost like people come to this, and listen, I fully understand, and I've written about this, but the message doesn't get across, and it's not going to because it's just humans are distracted. So people read my word and think the truth. Oh, that's spirituality, right? And that's because the context in which they've heard truth before has been in the context of spirituality, right? So I fully understand that, but I kind of do things different, right? And for me, the truth has nothing whatsoever to do with spirituality. I mean, spirituality, you might as well go dig ditches. It's the same. Like that's how far removed it is from it. It doesn't matter. It has no relevance to the truth. The truth isn't spiritual for me. It's absolutely relevant and practical. So when they come into this domain of the truth, they think, oh, they should just get it. Oh, well, I'll just do some self-awareness and do some. What they don't understand is when they come into this domain, they're actually going to be required to climb Mount Everest on the steepest face in 140-mile-an-hour winds, crawling with broken knees and no oxygen. Okay, that's what this is. And so the level of knowledge, dedication, determination, focus, willingness, readiness, devotion, obsession, willing to do anything, that's like 475 million times more than any other pursuit in your entire life combined. I mean, you could want to become the best in the NBA, the best in the NFL, the best on the PGA Tour, the best in MLB, right? All in one person in one lifetime. And that would be a drop in the bucket compared to mastery of the mind. So I'm trying to give you the answer as to why you haven't got the answer. Right? You said you looked into it and the fear, and why do I have fear? Even if I was to give you the deepest truth about it, the vessel that's receiving it has to be prepared and readied. And if it's not, it's just words. So that's kind of a comprehensive answer that I can give to your question.
So if I can reiterate at least a portion of that to make sure that I'm understanding it, it's not that the answer isn't there. It's not that the information isn't there. It's that.
What do you mean by there?
What do you mean
by there?
Available.
Where?
Possible to understand.
Where?
Nowhere. I can feel my mind trying to answer it. So I
No. But I want to know what you mean. I want to contextually. When you say it's not there, where are you talking about? Is the there?
If
do you mean exists? Is that what you mean by there?
I do mean exists.
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine. I was just clarifying as to I didn't understand. Yeah. So go ahead.
So it's more of that. It's more of.
Oh no, absolutely, it exists, right? The answers, the answers, like things like what happens after I die and what happened in the 47th lifetime of my life. I don't know. Right? I don't care, right? And maybe there's some mystic who knows the answer to your 47th lifetime. Maybe there is. Okay, so I can't say that answer doesn't. But all the questions that are relevant to someone's life in this lifetime, like fear and anxiety and torment and turmoil and failure and all of the things that every human being, suffers from. They're absolutely 100% those answers exist absolutely truthfully, and I'll be honest, they're kind of right here at the fingertips. Okay, but like for me to oh, it's because of this, it won't. That's like giving you a line of code if you're not a coder, right? It won't do anything. And humans are basically stuck. And the reason that they're stuck is because they have all these problems, right? Every human being does, right? But on the one hand, but on the other hand, they don't have the desire, the willingness, the dedication, the level of interest to want to solve all their problems. They don't have that. So they're stuck. So if you had the problems, but you had the, oceanic desire and do whatever you can, whatever you have to do to get the answers, okay, there's a way out. They can become unstuck. But if you have the problem, but you don't have the way to get out of it, then you're stuck. And you're stuck for a lifetime. And so their remedy of dealing with that is to say, well, I don't have the desire required for the truth. So what I'll just do like meditation, and which is fine, but it's not going to get rid of your problems. I mean, you might as well go for a walk and go for a run, and those are fine. I mean, but it's not going to give you what you're looking for on a holistic scale.
Yes, in the past, if I wanted to learn something new about how my mind was working or a way that it was controlling me, I would use a method.
No, but you would have to,
meditation,
because that's all that's
journaling, something.
available, right?
I mean, I have experienced other ways of doing it, and it usually doesn't take the form of one of those actions. It seems that relying on one of those for consistency never really works out. It always ends up failing, or it doesn't work on a Tuesday, but it works on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And then that becomes a game to try to figure that out. But for whatever reason, I do feel that understanding this or learning this skill is worth spending my entire life doing.
But it isn't a skill.
Obviously, I would prefer.
It isn't a skill, right? It's a wholehearted understanding. It isn't a skill. You can have skills that help you deal with life, to take the edge off of life. That's fine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real answers of permanence, solutions of permanence. That isn't a skill. In the same way that it isn't a skill for you to avoid a ditch that you see on your way as you're walking to the park. It isn't a skill that you don't dive into the ditch. It's not a skill, right? You didn't practice not jumping in. You have the understanding that if I jump into that ditch, I'm gonna get hurt. It's not good for me. That isn't a skill. You'd have to practice that. That's what it's not a skill. I hate that word. It's not skill is fine for sports and business. That's fine. But I mean, this is not a skill. It gets back to sports psychology and this BS nonsense, spiritual self-help, self-development, garbage. It isn't a skill. It is understanding.
Yeah.
And it is how deep and how desirous you are of having those understandings, to which literally transform human lives. But I'm not here to convince anyone.
Hello, Kapil. Um, Deep gratitude for your work. I have a question as it relates to parenting. Does true calling come by birth or does it come from the environment? I'm asking to understand whether I need to expose my child to various fields, which in itself would become an influencing with my limited intellect.
Kapil, I have a simple, practical question, which is I'm not very good at motivating myself to go to the gym. And I'm just trying to figure out whether this is because I don't actually want to go. On the one
How to overcome rejection sensitivity.
Hello. Hi, couple. Uh, when do you realize that the mind has stopped playing games with you, which you have been going through forever?
Hello, Kapil. I hope you can hear me well, and thanks for having me up here. My question is about uh, I remember when I was very young, I had a just overall purity in my life when I was a young child. And my question is just like, why or how exactly did I lose that purity that I believe I had? Thank you.
By living in the world and being exposed to the world. And that doesn't mean that you have to go live in a cave, but but the human does not recognize that the world is a poisonous place. And the reason, and by not recognizing that, and in all honesty, I mean, no sane person probably would recognize that. I mean, unless they live in a war-torn area, which then it's much more obvious, right? That's an unfortunate circumstance, um, but even if they were to leave that war-torn area and come to a place that's, not war-torn, then they definitely will fall for the illusion that the world is this, you know, even if they don't think it's good. I mean, no one recognizes that it's all poison. So you have no choice but to be poisoned. and your only real protection is luck. Is luck, and luck means DNA. If you happen to be born with a DNA which really by nature, because no one's going to teach you this, uh, by nature, absolutely 100% rejects everything they see and hear from the world, which no intelligent, sane person would do that. But unless you have that kind of DNA, you're screwed. And then it's just a matter of during your lifetime, do you happen to have some inkling, whether it's on your own or by way of having come across some, you know, information that gives you an inkling, even not even the whole truth, but even an inkling that the world is really poison in every possible way. There's no like poisonous part of the world and non-poison. It's all poison. It's all nonsense, garbage. And you have no choice. Like it's inevitable that you will be destroyed. And you can look at that as hyperbole, and everyone will. That's fine. I'm not here to defend the statement. It just is. And your life is living proof. Whether it's loss of purity or do you have fear and do you have confusion and do you have anxiety and do you have all these things are the world.
Hi, Kapil. So I have a question. Thank you for having me. I think that I'm writing a book, and so my question would be, what truths do I have to realize in order to write in a way that is in alignment to sort
Why,
of
if you don't have the
the
truth, why are you writing the book?
standard? Well, the way I see it is that I'm trying to, through the process of honing my craft, I'm trying to get to those truths and also express them.
Okay, that's fine.
It's
I
not.
mean,
It's a fictional book. It's not. It's not nonfiction. I'm not trying to teach anyone. I'm just trying to express certain themes and certain truths through my writings.
well, I mean, the thing is, if you, I can't tell you what truths that you, I mean, I don't know you. I don't know what situation like,
Yeah, I understand
so,
that.
but I would say that, even if someone has the desire for truth on any level,
Hmm.
I think I don't know. I think in some ways it benefits them to some degree. Um, and maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But uh, I just don't. I can't. That's a too open-ended of a question.
In the first place. If I didn't have spiritual ideas, I'll have some other ideas anyway. But with all of this, all these ideas and everything that I hold, if I come to you and I feel that you've realized the truth or you've seen the truth, is it possible for you to show it to me? Because where I
Okay.
am now,
Here's
I
here's my answer.
don't.
Here's my answer. It's a fair question. Here's my answer. Okay. Yes. Okay. But unless you have a certain minimal, or I don't even like the word minimal, but a certain requisite degree of desire to truly learn that is beyond the intellectual knowledge collections, then me telling you the truth about that thing won't do anything for you. So if can a human being be guided by truth by another? 100%. 100%. Okay? But you'll never, I'm not going to say never, you almost never going to see that. Number one, they're not going to find someone who knows the truth. And the reason that is because no one's devoted their life to truth, right? So yeah, there might be some, you know, some ascetic living at 18,000 feet in the Himalayas who yeah, absolutely, I don't discount that. But how many of those you can like? There's maybe three, right? So you have to have a human who's devoted his life to it's an obsession. Like truth is his living, waking moment of learning and understanding and writing and or speaking or even just inside himself, whatever it is. So that has to be found. You have to find the source of the truth, right? And number two, it requires that the human who is then trying to learn that truth from the other person, they have to be of a certain quality. They have to be of a certain amount of desire and willingness and intense longing to know. So in the absence of those, so you say, so you're telling me right now, if you were to come and ask me questions, right, that are the most relevant questions for your life and the problems of your life, could I give you the truth? Yes. Will it do anything for you? Probably not, because you're not there. And it is almost guaranteed. I'm not going to speak for you. So I'm going to allow some respect for the possibility that it's there and use the word almost. It is almost a certainty that you, like everybody else, is only ready for the intellectual knowledge of the truth. You want like a piece of gum to chew, right? A new piece of clothing, and or you want, or because you have been preconditioned by naturally, of course, spirituality and self-help and the world and the dogmas and the teachings and the concepts and the do this and the do that. It's like that's where you come from. Then that's the lens through which you're going to view everything that I tell you. Therefore, it's going to be total garbage for you. It's not going to get you anywhere. So it depends upon you. It depends upon me. Can I give you the truth? Absolutely. If you have fear, I can give you the truth. And you know it's not going to be, oh, go meditate on garbage nonsense. Yeah, no. But you're not there. You're only at the intellectual level, almost guaranteed. So is it possible? Yes. Is it very possible? It's easily possible. This is not even a stretch. This is not even one of those climb Mount Everest on your knees. No, this like throwing a ball across the yard. No big deal. Right now, right this minute. But you're not there.
Hi, Kapil. So to continue this conversation, can my truth be your truth, making it our
Well,
truth,
that's
or is it
that's just so
only?
theoretical. I mean, that's just so it's 700,000 feet in the sky. I mean, like there's no teeth to that question. My truth, your truth. Like there are universal truths, and there are like if you ask me about a problem that you're having, it's not my truth. Like it's there's no my in yours. It's just like if it rains, it's not my truth or your truth. It rained because the conditions were set for it to rain. It's not my truth or your truth. It's you know you're conflating different things. Whatever problems a human being is experiencing, there's a truth behind that. But the truth isn't just a blanket say something. It depends upon his circumstance, his situation, how he hears information, what he is ready and not ready for. That's why, like anyone, let me tell you something. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing these things, right? But I'm only going to be living for X number of more years, whatever those years are. Right? And during that time, everyone is going to be like bees buzzing around a central area. Okay. But they'll never hit the jackpot. They'll never hit, they'll never hit the bullseye. They're just gonna be buzzing around. Is it my truth? Is it your truth? What happens if how do you know when the mind quiets? And all these questions, right? They're never gonna hit, they're never gonna come inside the circle. And the reason for that is because they're never gonna go on the journey. Never. They're never gonna be willing to go on the journey. And a journey of being guided towards the truth. And I'm being very careful with my words because I don't want to say that you have to go on a journey with me. Like, but I am saying that unless unless you are on a journey with someone who knows the truth and you have the desire for it, how can it happen? Right? Now, I must immediately jump in, right, to that statement and say, that kind of smacks of, oh, you need a guru to it. That's such nonsense because the gurus, they all prescribe. So it doesn't matter you have 10 gurus. It's crap, right? Guidance according to where one is and leading him back to his nature. So if you do that for yourself, nothing like it. Great. That's the best way. But if in all honesty you're not that person and you don't have that knowledge or the desire to have that knowledge, then unless you get it from somewhere else and at the same time, unless along with getting it from somewhere else, and you also are ready to receive it, you're just gonna be buzzing around my truth, your truth, everyone's truth, la di da, all the stuff.
Once you do have the truth, like, what do you do with it?
It's such a
Does
nonsense
it actually?
question. It's such a nonsense question. Well, once I once I'm a billionaire, how do I fix my Ferrari? I mean, just what are you like? Is that really the pressing problem of your life? Is that once you do have it, which you're not going to, the person who asked that question, you're not going to have, okay? Because you're a window shopper. You're asking about 40,000 things. If I travel, what would happen if I went to Paris? What shoes would I wear? And I mean, like, this is the height of philosophy and theoretical nonsense.
Hello. So, so truth is just your soul. It's not even just intellectual. It's just inner knowing. So there's pretty much no
Right
point in
now, right
asking
now,
the
do you
question,
have a
right?
problem right now in your life? I don't know I don't know what the problem is. Do you have a problem in your life?
No problem.
You have no problem?
Nah.
Okay, well then you're set. Why you need truth?
Is my mic working? Hello, Kapil?
Hi, Kapil. Do you believe that truth is a one-player game, or that it can be pursued collectively? You know, either in a community or as a society or a small group, or is truth a solo pursuit?
Why are you asking the question?
Because I've been pondering on this a lot, kind of in my own practice, in terms of whether truth is even still valued in wider society, and whether actually truth is more about your individual relationship with that notion.
And why
So I was
and
just
and
curious.
why do you want to know that?
Um, to steer my own thinking and my own guidance.
What does that mean?
It means that I value truth within myself and in my own life, and I'm struggling to within myself in terms of, do I need to go on this journey alone and forget everything and everyone I know about in some way? Or is this a way I can pursue this collectively with few people that I trust?
And what is the fear that led to that question?
Not really a fear, but more of um, curiosity, I think, because well, I feel that society is going into a position in which truth is becoming less and less relevant, or
So for it to become less and less relevant in society, it had to be relevant in the first place,
yeah,
right? And it never was.
true.
So like like no question is ever innocent. So I can sort of see through people when they ask questions, and I won't go into that. But someone who asks this kind of question, they're almost looking for permission to use a group. Not there's anything wrong with that or good. Like if someone really wanted to do something alone, they really wouldn't be asking, is it, you know, do I do it by myself or do I do it with a group? There's some cleverness in that question.
Hi, Kapil. In one of your older podcasts, I remember you talking about how there are these individuals like athletes that are just born with that certainty that they can achieve what they set out to achieve. And it's a rare trait, but I just wanted to ask, is that level of certainty something that you can achieve through hypnosis?
I see that I'm more at peace when I'm alone, but then when I go into a group or when I go to society, there's conflicts that happen, and it makes me feel agitated. So, what sort of
Hello, Kapil. I would like to know if you have any training or methods that will help to get rid of involuntary thoughts.
Dr. Gupta, I'm wondering, I have read some of your work going back years now, and there was a piece you wrote to Tony Robbins or about Tony Robbins, and I'm just wondering if you can say that your Hello, Dr. Gupta. I take it my connection was lost. I apologize. Let me see if I can make it any better. You wrote a piece to Tony Robbins in much earlier days, and I'm wondering if you can say that your fervor for the truth has been honed. Is it by you, or do you have a North Star that you look to when you're what why Tony Robbins then, and why just yourself now?
Well, I have no idea. I wrote a lot of things early on.
What has changed?
Nothing is. I've wrote a lot of things early on. You know, a lot of things are marketing related early on, and whenever you're doing something, and so I don't. It's not a matter of change. It's.
Did you hear my question? I'm sorry, I can't tell whether the X spaces is rejecting me or what's going on here.
The North Star is the truth.
Hello?
I keep finding myself returning to the question of exposure. It's very clear that the nature of what one is exposed to, quality and substance, their awareness and sensitivity, any given area. One may be faced with a depth of
Your
truth that
everything is
you just don't
breaking up, and
know anywhere else.
your connection is breaking up.
Sorry. Let me see. Is that any better? Otherwise, I can.
Go ahead.
And so I in thinking about this question, there's those who are, come across something or someone in the world that reveals to them something much deeper. But then there are those far exceed the heights of what any other human has touched. And that's clearly not through any external exposure or inspiration, but it's due to some force within them that I guess isn't themselves. It's something that they're kind of carried by. And I guess in my own life, I've seen that all the things external that I've been exposed to, apart from a few individuals or pieces of literature, have clearly been of a detriment and a distraction, and who knows how many years that's cost. And I guess my question is around what is that force within an individual that propels them to something that is otherwise unseen and unknown. And I guess in just saying this, what comes up is something that you wrote, a line, something saying something around that. In every person there is a longing in their heart that has always been there, and that is their greatest obstacle. And I guess I feel this burning urgency that this thing, I guess the thing that has brought clarity and a modicum of truth in my life, has been completely despite and regardless of all my attempts to arrange, the right exposure or to move things in the right direction. And I know that thing is there, and it's very clear that there's nothing to be done with it. But I still feel that tension of something is still unseen, and I guess I'm just holding that tension, and would just be curious to hear what arises in you from that.
So why did you begin with exposure? How did that relate to what you said later?
Because when I think of exposure, there's all these things that I, on a superficial level, have naturally just gravitated away from, because I saw that they brought no substance to my own perception, or what I was cultivating with my own attention. But I guess in my personal experience, there have been certain things that have constantly arisen in my life within me that have struck me like a sort of knife to the heart that I can't really explain. And I guess the exposures, the things that have happened to me that have actually oriented my life, in my experience, in a direction of truth, have been things that I didn't compel or bring about. And at the same time, I can see there's a level to which I have kind of allowed those things to pass.
So where do you live?
I live in England.
And what do you do?
I'm setting up research organizations, but I also write.
Research organizations for what?
For physical technology and computing technology.
Okay, so you have demonstrated among the, an insight that is well beyond probably any other question I've ever been asked. You are speaking from an internal and instinctual place, and that it is correct that there is a force and that force which produces that longing, or the force which maybe even is the longing, which which invests, in this case, truth to come into a person, which nobody else basically knows. And that coupled with the statement about there are some in history who have, you know, discovered things or have whatever your statement was that, you know, reached places that no one else did. And then that coupled with your statement that the things that have guided you are things that you never tried to intentionally do, and that the things that you tried to intentionally do were the things that always fell flat on their face. See, those are very insightful uh, comments. And the force that invests a human being with truth, on the one hand, there is an equally powerful force which invests a human being with desire to know it. And those are the kind of the perfect storm I was talking about earlier. Like there has to be both. And
Yes.
so, you know, where that comes from, who knows? I don't know. But so the things that, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a talent in some ways, right? Like if someone has a talent for, you know, soccer or something, right? And they, you know, very rare talent, like they didn't create the talent. Like they weren't the ones who placed the talent there inside themselves. They were just born with that talent. Or maybe they got the talent later in life or something else or whatever it was. The point is that wasn't manufactured. Otherwise everybody would manufacture it, right? So there is absolutely 100%, 100% uh, that the things that are truly the things you know, the things that are truly otherworldly within a human being when he reaches a place inside himself, whether it is knowing the truth or whether it is becoming, you know, in like unlike anyone else ever existed in a particular sport or whatever it is, those things are not like some result of practice and hard work and reading a lot, right? That doesn't mean that those things like there wasn't practice, there wasn't like there wasn't anything, any effort placed by the individual. It doesn't mean that. But in this particular case, outside of the domain of, you know, physical skill in sports and business and whatever it may be, it actually is much closer to not meaning that. It is much closer to no practice. It's more of a gift. Um, and so the people who reach head and shoulders above others in human civilization, when it comes to this domain, and I'm not going to call it spirituality because it's not, but it's in this non-materialistic, skill-based, you know, physical domain of, you know, finding enlightenment, realization, truth, having knowledge that no one else has, gleaning insights that no, that is largely by way of communion with the divine. It comes from somewhere else. And I think I made a statement a long time ago in some podcast or something that, um, so I don't even remember the exact statement, but it was something along the lines of, um, you know, I don't create the truth, I just know the way to the well. And well, what is it that allowed me to
Yes.
know the way to the well? I don't know. So if somebody asks, if I look
Yes.
at a person and if I sit in front of a person, and usually if I even hear a person on this kind of medium, I usually can, I usually can like intentionally like go into their being in a way and, you know, and sense things about them, right? That's not a practice. That's not some stupid idiotic meditation that I did. I mean, I would I mean, that's insulting, right? Uh, that's like saying someone, you know, that's like saying someone can, you know, become the greatest in history because of diet and exercise. I mean, well, everyone's diet and exercise. So, there's got to be something more than that. So things just come, and the more otherworldly and the higher sort of place that you get, or more the depth of information, knowledge, truth that invests in you, the less it comes from your efforts and the more it comes from some other place. Now, everyone misunderstands everything that I say, so let me just qualify that for a second. Um, it doesn't come for no reason, and the reason isn't because you're special or whatever it is. The reason is because the desire is there, and where there is an intense and desire and sincerity and longing and genuine uh, an oceanic desire to know, and that usually is correlated with receiving a gift. And just it doesn't mean that it will, but it's a gift. And so, like, I won't take credit for it because I didn't put it there, so I don't deserve any credit for it. In the same way that you're talking about. So you're absolutely correct. Number one is a force inside, and where that comes from, no one knows. And number two, the insights that arise um, with if you happen if they happen to be insights and knowledge and truths that others in civilization don't really know, it wasn't by way of effort. That was by way of the ether or some unspeakable, unknowable place, the same place that provides talent, whatever that place is, right? No one knows that. You could call it God or universe or whatever you want. I mean, there's no word for the exact pinpoint place of source. Um, but that's my response to your to your question. It absolutely it's a gift, and different humans have different gifts, um, and those are usually your stepping stone to get what you want in your life.
Yes. Well, I'll just say that whatever this force is, it's been a persistent thread through my life, and I resisted it most of my life because it terrified me. But I got to a point where it sort of burst through a threshold where I could meet it, even though there was a level of fear there, because it asks everything of me. And so, yeah, I certainly don't have the feeling that there's anything to do with it. It's more that I guess, yeah, I can see the tension of the fact that not everything has been given, and that's not to say, yeah, I don't know what to say because I know there's nothing to be done, but it's yeah, I guess it just is. Yeah.
Insightful comments.